You want to know the games I think are the best to talk about? The unassuming ones. You know the ones I'm on about, right? You think to yourself, yeah, this'll probably be fun for a little while, but you don't expect a whole lot from the experience. It's probably because there's no hype influencing you, or you're more blind to it. But it feels really refreshing when you end up selling your soul to something you just stumbled on so you could tell everyone that it's actually pretty good. It certainly opened me up to more stuff to play. Even something you randomly glance at could end up becoming an old favourite down the line. But then it's a complete and utter bitch to recommend because of its middling nature. You can't hype anyone up to try it immediately, and you might need to force feed it to them with your own money, so here I stand with not a review but a PSA. Play Puyo Puyo Tetris. Right now, it's one of the best games you can get on that fancy newish Switch of yours. It's one of the best damn puzzle games you can find on the market right now. It's one of the best games of last year, at least in the West, because it came out in Japan when the Tokugawa shogunate was still in power. Could you just stop lying to yourself about this, please? Yeah, I'm being sincere about this. At least as sincere as one can be when the voice in my head continues to influence my bad taste. Yeah, there's a chance you're probably not convinced, because you're most likely asking what purpose this game serves when it costs £35 on Switch and £15 on PC. Why are you like this, Sega? And all you get in return is 2 puzzle games that you could easily emulate on your phone or find a flash game of online. So what's the appeal, Joe? Is it waifus? Did you get the game because of the waifus? Actually, let's skip that question, because this game is worth your time and money, damn it! Just let me yell about this game to you for a few minutes, because it's consumed my existence, to say the least. All I do now is eat, sleep, and shit Puyo Puyo Tetris. I'm trapped, please help me. The title's self-explanatory, right? Getting the sweet puzzle action of Tetris, a historic game molded by the blood, sweat, tears, and vodka of our good from the East, aiming to provide block-stacking gameplay to the common man, the proletariat who has every right to embrace the teamwork and dedication each stacking block provides, until Dimitri stands in your doorway like,
Mama говорит, что моя очередь на Xbox.
And there's also Puyo Puyo, I guess. Or Mean Bean Machine, if you're gonna be a Westaboo about it.
I'm entering as Jimbo. Went to West Fest in a limo. Did the prison dance and the limbo. With 2 fat ladies from bingo.
A delightful swirl of 2 puzzle behemoths with enough spice to make it stand out as some of the most fun I've had in a competitive multiplayer game. Yep, I said competitive. Very balanced at that. The Tetris player is at a slight disadvantage in this game, because the game has versus elements, and if you're a filthy normie who only knows about 89 Tetris like myself, you probably looked at this game initially like, whatever, so like whoever gets the most points wins or something, but no. My pop filter fell off, but no. It's actually a fighting game. Let's start slowly with Puyo. Technically being the newest iteration in the Puyo Puyo series, the game makes use of Puyo's traditional combat mechanics. Yeah, be prepared to hear Puyo a lot in this video, sorry in advance. You stack different coloured Puyos, and if you clear a group of 4, they disappear, causing all others above the cleared group to fall. This can chain clears together, producing garbage that gets hurled directly at your opponent to absolutely screw them over. It's kinda cathartic and makes you feel like an arse, but it's all worth it to hear your friends yell as all sense of friendship and camaraderie goes out the window. Real talk, Puyo players who are really into this game are gifted souls, pulling 9 chains without as much as a cough, and there's so much I'm still unable to wrap my head around. Harassment, GTR, sandwiches. This is why I'm a filthy Tetris main and why most of this video will be about Tetris. My brain hurts when I try to make a chain higher than 4. I don't like having to think in my puzzle games, alright? Now the new game mode Tetris works rather similarly, where you play traditional Tetris and clear lines, but like in Puyo, clearing multiple lines in one go or comboing clears together generates garbage to attack the opposition. The main differences being that garbage Puyos rain from the top and require a group to be matched next to it to clear, and rows of garbage Minos appear from the bottom with random gaps assorted throughout. On top of all this, players are free to play either of the 2 modes for a match because of their interchangeable rule set. You're never restricted to just playing one mode, and they combine rather well, with Tetris feeling like a fast-paced rogue that can combo a series of light jabs, and Puyo feeling like a brute with a hammer that can punish you without countering. And mother of God, this game can get real sometimes. I have never played Puyo prior to this, but I knew it was based around battling with its puzzle elements, so it feels normal enough, but as an absolute Tetris novice who only ever played the Game Boy original, it really shakes up how you see Tetris. This thing actually has a meta in it. This is probably sounding so ridiculous to people that already know this shit. The me who casually played 89 Tetris in the past and the me who plays Puyo Puyo Tetris on an intermediate level today are 2 very different players, and the versus nature of the game really shakes things up. 89 Tetris to me was more of a zen experience that I'd play to pass the time, where I'd clear my lines at my leisure and see how long I can survive. It was a slower paced form of the game that primarily focused on relaxation and going on for as long as you'd like, making it more of a distraction if anything, a time waster that seems worthless when judging it as a game to invest time and effort in. Hence why prior to this game, I thought nothing of Tetris and thought of it as something hollow and boring that only those nostalgia-blinded brought up because you need to appreciate your damn history, young'uns. Who cares about the fact that no NES game in existence has aged remotely well? In Puyo Puyo Tetris, however, I go out of my way to plan more elaborate setups to use as powerful attacks and try to be as fast as possible when making them, focusing on my endurance and clearing my objective as quickly and efficiently as possible. Kinda similar to my mindset in a shooter now that I think about it. This more modern change in playstyle allowed me to appreciate Tetris way more, as a solid win-loss state against another human being felt far more satisfying to me over points. Most likely because of the industry's current esports focused climate, and I started using setups and methods that I wouldn't have thought of doing in its traditional single-player form. Thoughts and ideas will go into my head like, which setup should I open with? Should I attack now or wait to counter their attack? Just how many kittens will be drowned as punishment for doing a T-spin? Seriously, I love watching advanced play of this game because it feels like a fast-paced back and forth between you and your opponent where you're directly influencing their game through your own moves, while competitive classic Tetris is just... it's just really fucking boring, Jesus Christ. My favourite method when rolling out a match is starting off by building a well on the far side of the board that's 2 gaps wide, with the rest of my board being a perfect setup with little to no gaps. Then, when I wish to attack or I want to deflect a mass of garbage my opponent has thrown at me, I start clearing lines consecutively using a tiny nub sticking out the bottom of the well as a base. Tetris in this game has a combo system that acknowledges when you clear lines in a row without stopping, and using this well-known method known as this side 2-wide combo setup, the amount of garbage I can produce multiplies drastically. And the most fun matches I've had are the ones where I bait my opponent to spike me last minute, or they try throwing together a combo themselves to deflect the garbage I've thrown towards them. Then, if I want to do a brutal sledgehammer of an attack, either to clutch or finish them off, I can hold an I-Tetramino on me and make a quick Tetris setup with a 1-wide gap, or even a devilish little method known as the T-spin double, wherein a puppy cries somewhere every time you use this in online because you're a terrible person. The T-spin is a well-known Tetris method wherein the T is able to spin around an indent surrounded by 3 corners. By leaving a T-shaped hole in 2 lines, then placing an overhang to make the 3rd corner, you can spin a T-shape in, clearing 2 lines but producing the amount of garbage produced by a Tetris clear. There's also the T-spin triple where you clear 3 lines by making this Lovecraftian abomination that I'm nowhere near good enough to build myself. Top that off with perfect clears, elaborate setups to chain these methods together, and understanding the 7-bag randomizer, which guarantees you get 1 of each Tetramino every 7 pieces in a random order, and this game will keep you busy for tons of hours if you want to learn everything, and it feels like a well-rounded multiplayer game with lots of depth. Well, as long as you stay away from the subset of the games community that are passionate about the balancing between Puyo and Tetris. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Not only because they're kinda correct, Tetris is a little OP, but I think if I say anything I'll get countered by someone significantly smarter than me. I'm sorry I'm a Tetris main, guys. It's like a drug. I can't stop. And also, Puyo's really, really hard. Versus never gets old for me regardless of if I'm playing or watching it, because the nature of the game makes it feel like everyone's building an elaborate weapon as fast as they can and seeing who can tear it down quickly. It's satisfying, but also nail-bitingly tense when it wants to be. Something I would never see myself saying about Puyo and Tetris of all things. Like, okay Joe, you've justified the game's mechanics, but it still sounds pretty light and malnourished. Well, luckily, if we're talking content, I believe Puyo Puyo Tetris is implemented just enough to keep you invested for a while and feel like you got your money's worth. In the standard arcade mode, Versus is just the tip of the iceberg, with other game modes that are surprisingly fun in their own right and have lots more to research and perfect. Another favourite, and more often than not the competitive standard, is Swap Mode. Here, players randomly start on either Puyo or Tetris, and after a timer is counted down to 0, they're automatically transitioned to a board of the opposite mode. Your objective in Swap is to drown your opponent in garbage just like in Versus, but you have to keep track of 2 boards that you can only revisit in brief windows. And this opens up some more tricks in the combat, such as how garbage transfers between boards, so if you have a powerful attack setup in Tetris and your opponent's losing at Puyo, you can attack at the last second so your garbage is generated during the swap. There's also the swap combo, a method that involves simultaneously clearing Puyos and Tetraminos on both of your boards to really bring the pain, with my go-to method being to set off the biggest Puyo chain I can and following up with a 2-wide in Tetris. This mode is easily one of the strongest, and I highly recommend it when getting serious with opponents of your skill level. Not to mention, it's absolutely hilarious when playing it on a short timer with friends. We then start getting to the weird modes, because Fusion people are kinda iffy about because it sounds really confusing and broken, and it kind of is. To put simply, you get both Puyos and Tetraminos in this mode and have to try and clear both of them on one singular board, and before the idea of that makes makes your eyes roll into the back of your skull, Fusion was given some changes to accommodate this style of play, such as how Tetramino squash Puyos, removing them temporarily only to respawn them at the top of the board. If you don't know what you're doing, Fusion matches can feel painfully slow, but once it clicks, it's easily one of the most zany and terrifying modes where someone can snatch a win last minute if you're not careful. Another initially weak mode that shines later on is Party, which is essentially a more laid-back version of Versus where both Puyo and Tetris players compete to get the highest score in an allotted time, with the big twist being the use of power-ups you obtain by clearing them on your board, like siphoning other players' points, giving them weird-shaped Tetraminos, turning off rotations, or protecting yourself from garbage. Two heads up I'd give is to pick your character wisely, as it can impact the kind of power-ups you get, and make sure you and your friends are playing on the same mode, because the differences in scoring systems means that Puyo players are at a severe disadvantage when up against Tetris players who get points by breathing. This mode may seem like nothing special, but I'd highly recommend it if you and your opponents are of varying skill levels. The focus on points and power-ups means that even weaker players have a chance of winning, and this is the go-to mode for screaming and shouting. And then you have Big Bang. Big Bang is bad. Don't play Big Bang. Combine that with single-player challenges, like actual single-player Tetris, and that's just if we rule out the adventure mode. Yeah, I wager about 90% of you just reacted to that with, wait, this game has an adventure mode? Well, yeah, dickhead, and it's actually pretty decent. Adventure is really simple in its structure. Play 100 levels of different modes and maybe replay them a few times so you can earn all the arbitrary stars and have enough self-satisfaction to look yourself in the mirror without crying. But believe me when I say you want to play this mode for the dialogue, because it's adorable and fucking hilarious, being based around the misadventures of, Wait, hang on. Morgana? Ryuji? Futaba, Marie, Miles Edgeworth, Amy Rose, Ring a Bell, and 2B? Xander Mobus and Matt Mercer are in this game too. Jesus Christ, they got the good ones for this game. Yeah, the plot isn't much to talk about in Puyo Puyo Tetris because it's all about the dimensions of Puyo and Tetris merging. Ooh, spooky. But that doesn't change the fact that the voice work and writing in this game is so unbelievably well done. The dialogue has that passive-aggressive, they don't pay me enough vibe from the localization team, and the voice actors do such a great job at getting into their characters that you can't not laugh at, or at the very least smile at these interactions.
And if you stand in my way, I shall kick you. Really super hard.
Lady Auntie, will you do me the honor of an hostile encounter?
I forget. Did I describe the way his smile makes me shiver?
Yes, twice now.
Honestly, I'm surprised they brought on voice actors with such notable portfolios into this game. It's most likely the Sega connections they have going on, and now you guys are going to join me in the endless torture that's thinking of the P5 protagonist when the Dark Prince opens his mouth.
It'll be the perfect honeymoon!
Like, there is a plot point where Arl falsely accuses the Dark Prince of pulling the dimension merging shit, and he starts crying, so your objective for the rest of the chapter is to track him down in the woods and apologize for being so mean. Have you ever played a game that's so hilariously pure? There's waifus, and sassy dancing fishmen, and a dark mage with a vocabulary so limited he can only talk in sex innuendos. What more do you need?
Finally, you and I are going to score together. I would never rub you the wrong way. The time has come for me to clear my reputation by assaulting this young girl!
And that's the game, but you know what I'm like, let's talk port, so we have you all studied up for when the game takes your soul by way of payment. It's for a good cause, I assure you. If you live over in the West, PPT is only available on Nintendo Switch, PS4 is a physical exclusive for some reason, at least in the UK, and on PC through Steam. The reason I say only on these platforms is because if you live in Japan where the game came out years ago, or don't mind importing a Japanese copy, you can also get it on 3DS, Wii U, PS Vita, PS3, and Xbox One. Why the fuck is this version a Japan exclusive? Doesn't the Xbox brand sell like shit over there? There's honestly nothing drastically different about each port, so it's more a case of picking whichever one's more ideal for you, like your favourite controller and which ports all your friends are playing. But the two factors that need touching on are online player bases and the state of the PC version. If you plan on primarily playing Puyo Puyo Tetris Online, the thing to note is that online is not cross-platform, at least to my knowledge, so the online player base varies greatly with each version. After a few days of checking the rankings with all three Western localized versions of the game, I found the Switch version to easily be the most populated in the hundreds of thousands. The PS4 version was significantly lower in the tens of thousands, and the PC version just barely reached the hundreds, which is kinda disappointing. On top of that, playing the PS4 and Switch versions requires paying monthly for their bullshit online services, so it's mostly a matter of if you're gonna be online a lot and if you'll be mostly matchmaking or playing with friends in private lobbies. Yeah, I've neglected to talk about online, haven't I? It's fun and works most of the time, but it's a real pain in the arse when it wants to be. Functionally, Optional, but still a complete pain, Puyo Puyo Tetris has online play where you get paired with the ranking Puyo main of the week who's going to make your soul burn. The game's online is a ton of fun when you start feeling confident with your skills with Puzzle League, a competitive mode where wins and losses go towards your skill and worldwide rankings, and free play to join lobbies with friends and strangers alike, but from the experience of playing literally any video game released in the last 10 years, how Puyo Puyo Tetris handles online is confusing, outdated, and doing the bare minimum. Puzzle League is the only online mode in the game that lets you matchmake with random players, and the lack of casual matchmaking is just downright bizarre. If you want to play with strangers casually, your only option is to choose free play, which uses a room system. I always found using a room system in public online games to be fucking dumb no matter how it's implemented, as it's a gamble between waiting for someone to host, trying to host a room yourself with no idea if anyone's actually around, or the list being nothing but private rooms of people playing with their friends. Top it off with each mode having separate room listings to rummage through, and the host being able to change basically everything about the rule set so only 10 chains make garbage or some shit. And free play is only ever good for making private games. You're gonna have to step up to Puzzle League to play vanilla 1v1s with randos. But even if you circumvent these issues, you're not completely out of the woods thanks to a dozen of other issues. Even with a sizable player base like the Switch version, the skill matchmaking in Puzzle League is just broken, pairing me with poor newcomers who were forced here if they wanted to have a good time and vice versa. If you want to change game mode in free play, you need to close the entire room down to make a new one, and you need to head back to the lobby whenever someone wants to change to Puyo or Tetris. And while this wasn't the case in Puzzle League, I had issues in free play where an entire match with friends would just completely implode on itself, and after me and my friends checked our internet connections, the only possible explanation we could think of was shitty netcode. After all, if the netcode wasn't the issue and it was just one of us dropping connection, what reason would the game have for ending the entire match, destroying the room, and sending every last one of us back to the main menu? Lastly, less of a criticism and more of a missed opportunity, why the hell isn't there a live spectate function? It would have been perfect for this game. I have a friend who streams ARMS tournaments for viewers, and Puyo Puyo Tetris filling in that gap for other streamers would have been amazing for showing off the game's competitive potential. One can dream, I guess. There's always the chance of a sequel. But let's talk about the PC port of the game real quick, which came out a few months ago. PC ports always need those little caveats and asterisks, and I think in Puyo Puyo Tetris' case, it's fine. It does its job, it's the cheapest version of the game, and using my delicious PC hardware means that the online's a bit more stable, and the post-launch support for bugs and technical issues has been decent, but it still doesn't really hold up on a technical level to the console versions. The sound mixing is poor, with voices in-game being extremely quiet. The game really doesn't like dual monitor setups and will straight up forget which monitor it's supposed to be set to. It sometimes mixes up voice banks, so you could be playing as Amity and it start playing alternate Risakuma in Japanese or some shit. And while it's not something I've faced myself, crashes are still a possibility depending on your hardware. Oh, also it has de novo DRM on it, so that's a little bit shit. And again, missed opportunity more than anything. The game can be modded, but it's an absolute ball ache due to the lack of Steam Workshop support, and you can't have multiple mods installed at once without doing a lot of fiddling. The PC version's the only one I'd give a buyer beware to, but with it being a Steam exclusive and Steam having a refund system, don't hesitate to pick it up if it's your preferred or only option. Test the waters, see if it runs on your hardware. There's no harm in trying, and its known issues seem to only be affecting a handful of players. Yeah, don't ask me why I have all three versions of the game, I just really like it, you guys. Wait, when did I import the 3DS version? You're up to speed now, and in a few weeks at most I expect you to have purchased this game to do your part for the good of the industry. Remember, your assignment is 1 Tetris clear, 1 T-spin, a chain of 4 or higher, and at least 2 romantic fantasies about Lemris. Got it? In all seriousness, I hope I've convinced you to get the game, because I wasn't expecting myself to have so much fun with it, and I want more people to have fun with it. It's something just as good as a new experience. It shakes up an existing experience to turn a dull time waster into something intense and truly enjoyable. If you told me that my favourite Nintendo Switch game and the first I was going to reach 150 hours on was Puyo Puyo Tetris, I would have called you an absolute moron. But here we are, where I'm taking out a second mortgage on my house to cover the cost of gifting multiple copies of the game to friends, because those shitlets aren't going to buy it for themselves, are they? I feel like my review style complements this rant format purely because you guys never believe me when I tell you a game is good. It hurts. So, yeah, brilliant. Are you going to play the game now? Come on!